Hi, Weirdos. It's Thursday. My name is Sarah, and I am joined, as always, by...
I'm Mackenzie.
And I'm Chris.
And we have a guest today.
I'm Alyssa.
And this podcast is for Weirdos. So, as you can all see, we have a guest this week, and she's actually going to be our first guest topic.
Hello.
So for our 4th episode this week, we figured we'd bring in our dear, dear friend Alyssa, my former coworker. But there are some topics that we don't want to cover because it's not something that we're like necessarily super duper invested in, so we don't think we can do the best research for. And when we were doing the podcast planning, and I still had my job, we were like making a list, and someone was like, we should probably cover vampires. And I was like, do any of y'all want to cover vampires? And I was sitting next to Alyssa, and I was like, someone's going to have to cover vampires.
And I was like, good evening.
And then and she was like, I'll do it. And
Weirdos, I will vomit if you don't let me do the vampire.
And I was like, all right, I guess Alyssa's doing vampires.
Yeah, it was me.
So, yeah, Alyssa.
And I'm here.
Tell us about vampires.
I would love to.
Please.
What are they?
What are they?
What are vampire?
Okay, what do you...
Tell me, class, what do you know?
Clockwise. Alyssa, not Alyssa, you're Mackenzie. You go first.
I know I read Dracula as a kid.
Hell yeah.
I have I know the generic, like, everything that every kid learns at, like, Halloween, and, they're affected by the sun. They don't like garlic. You can stab them with a wooden stake. Like, I know that, like,
We have one.
We do.
You have a vampire defense in here? Oh, I've seen this. Yeah.
Yeah. Our boss found that somewhere and was like, Sarah should have this.
Yes.
I don't think it's ever been on camera.
No.
It's just
But
been
there it
sitting
is.
over here.
I've read
Just in
other
case.
like books that have vampire lore mixed into them. I have read, or my husband loves D&D, so we played like the Curse of Strahd campaign, which is a vampire-y based BBEG.
Big bad evil guy for those who aren't tabletop people.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of like, I have generic knowledge, and I've like, yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave that.
Go, Chris.
Like, I really like vampires. I think they're really fun. I haven't read Dracula, but like I got to see the ballet,
That's cool.
which was really fucking
There's
cool.
a Dracula ballet?
Yeah.
Jamie,
And it is so
if
cool.
the ballet ever does Dracula, you have to take me.
It's
The Dracula ballet is great.
incredibly
They
good,
probably-
and
the
it's
Houston
incredibly
ballet probably
sexy.
will
Like,
too, but
They portray vampires in ballet really well. It's
Nice.
so cool.
fuck yeah, it's
Nice.
awesome. And like growing up, I read Twilight, and
I did also read the Twilight,
I know,
which is not real vampires.
yeah, it's not real vampires.
No,
Those are
that
vampires.
was not disgust from me. That was love.
Okay,
What
That
did you do?
is,
Perfect.
I stuck my
Made
tongue
of,
out and rolled my
slight-
eyes.
a slight vomit face.
yeah,
yeah,
that's Alyssa's
I'm a
love face.
slut for Twilight.
Look,
I am such.
I loved it, and at this point in my life, I love it for a different reason. I'm like, this is the funniest shit I've ever
It-
fucking seen.
Changed a lot for me too when I grew up, and
Yeah.
oh my god, the relationship, the Mormonism, the
Mormonism.
the everything,
The clothing.
the My Chemical Romance of it.
The My
the
Chemical Romance
9/11 of it all.
Yes.
Oh my god. Oh,
So where
save
we
it, save it, save it.
Bestie? You done? You got more?
But yeah, no, I know some basic vampire lore. I saw Nosferatu this year and
I did not.
had
Oh
opinions.
my god, you would have loved it.
I know. I was told by many people I would have loved it, even though I'm not a horror movie person.
Which it was.
It wasn't really.
It was horror
scary.
adjacent.
Right.
I loved it. Did
many
you not
many
love
people
it?
who know me very well told me that I would like this movie.
I was
I
very.
should see it.
had very tepid feelings about it. I was like,
Ooh.
I
guess.
left there and talked about it for an hour.
Lovely.
That doesn't surprise me.
I was like, by the way, the wallpaper in that house, like I
yeah,
left
no,
there
like-
and was like, the costume. They finally did the 1830s correctly in a movie. Like I
You know,
left
like,
there.
They had really great like costuming and this and that and whatever, and I was just like, I don't know.
Oh, and I was like, vampires
did, like-
are scary in movies again. We have hit such a time. I left there kicking, screaming, climbing the walls, eating drywall. Like,
Hell yeah.
I
Battling the
was
bars of
killing.
enclosure.
You know, I was.
Yes,
I was.
that was enrichment in my enclosure. It was so good.
unenthused. I was like, I'm not scared of this vampire.
And I was like, I am campaigning for Best Picture. Nosferatu for Best Picture.
Oh my
And
god.
I'm,
Wow. We have
I'm
either-
really glad you enjoyed it.
We
'cause I
have
was like,
either. Well, we
I
clearly
wish I
have a
liked it.
vampire aficionado. being
Well, yeah,
like,
I was
"Fuck
gonna say
yeah."
I was there because I was like, a vampire movie. Like I was
Right.
I was foaming at the mouth.
Wasn't there another vampire movie that came out recently
Yes, probably.
that you and Cody were trying to get me to go see?
Oh, that was Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yeah, that one.
Because it's a Dracula.
Right.
It's a Dracula, and I still
I
haven't
didn't.
watched it because I was like, I want my friends to see it with me, and you guys were like,
And
like-
I went, "Is it a scary movie?"
The answer is yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going.
Okay, answer's yeah.
Christopher with you.
That
Take
one
me.
will go.
I love scary movies.
Watch it. I set up the projector at my house. We can watch it. We can go to my house at night, watch it on the projector in the loft.
Fuck yeah.
Neat. So as far as what I know of the vampires, I did not read Twilight as a child. I tried desperately because
It's
everyone
very much
was
not your book.
It's not. Everyone that
yeah.
I knew was into it though, and so I was like, I hate it because it's stupid, but I'll try. Like I was like, I hate it, but I haven't read it, so I can't hate it. So then I tried to read it, and I
You
went,
still
oh
hated
no,
it?
I do hate it. It's awful.
That's fair.
I think
Not incorrect.
I think that's one of the only books I've ever DNF'd, and
Wow.
Oh, and I love a DNF.
Right, I have, but usually I don't even pick up the book if I can tell I'm not gonna
Finish it.
I have rarely had a book that I don't enjoy when it's in my hands. Like I have not ever been sold shit and been like, oh no,
And successfully gotten to
this
page
is a
one.
bad book. Except for Twilight. And my mom was like, I'll get you all 4 so that way you have the series. So we had all 4 fucking Twilight books. I read the first 3 chapters and I went, Mother, this is garbage. And she went, okay. And then my mom also tried to read it and same thing. She went, oh my god, this is bad. So she also DNF'd Twilight. But I read a book series as a little child called Vampirates. Is it in this room? It's not in this room.
That sounds incredible.
So it's like younger
Middle
than
grade.
Twilight. It's like it's like Percy Jackson.
Middle grade.
Yeah. Which
love
is weirdly as a 30-year-old my favorite.
No. That's
classification
not.
of book.
That's my mom, who is a child educator. That's her favorite genre.
She's also a child educator, so it
Well,
makes sense.
yeah, but even when she's not reading adult nonfiction stuff,
Right.
if she's gonna recommend a fiction, she loves.
I love them. I
a
love the
middle
stories.
YA.
It's because some of them really stand up.
I love a kid.
I love a YA.
I love a kid going through some stuff. Anyway, we've gotten off vampires. Back onto vampires.
Hello.
So I read this book series called Vampirates.
Yes.
Which is exactly what it sounds like. They're vampire pirates.
Fuck yeah.
That's right up your alley.
It was dope. I was like, this is the vampire media I will get into because
Yes.
we were of the age when the vampire werewolf media was booming.
Yeah, dude.
That was our early teenhood. Twilight came out. I know when
The
books-
book-
I have friends who went to the midnight releases of those books.
yeah, it's me.
Yeah, I know.
Woo.
But I was like, I'll do these as my vampire media.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, just a short synopsis: it's twins, a boy and a girl,
Oh my god.
who their dad
me.
they live in a lighthouse. Their dad used to tell them about these vampire pirates as he would sing this song to them to lull them to sleep and also tell them to not fuck around.
yeah.
He dies. They see the ship. They try to go to it. Their little rowboat sinks.
Shit.
The brother gets taken by regular ass pirates.
Oh.
The sister gets taken by the vampire pirates.
Heyo.
Sick.
And so she's like, oh, they're gonna eat me.
Yeah.
Is kind of the whole thing, and it's a whole ass series. There's a there's a pirate academy in it because they were like, well, we also have to mix Harry Potter in here, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We have to get a school.
Did you? Sorry, finish what you were saying.
So that's that book series, and then I watched What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
yeah.
A masterpiece.
I love them. New York City.
Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson. This is how we talk in Tucson, Arizona. I just watched that episode. And I know the lore of I know a lot of the basic lore. You can kill them with a stake. They don't.
They drink
garlic,
blood. They
drink
blah, blah,
blood.
blah.
They have
also-
to ask to come in your home usually, or they have to be invited in.
And
they count stuff.
They
They're
count stuff.
they're autism.
from
They
fucking
count
Sesame
things.
Street.
Yeah.
They're
One.
autism.
They have autism.
Yeah, the Count from
Dude.
Sesame Street. He's my favorite vampire.
I love the Count.
That's my favorite vampire.
I do. Also,
I like Count Chocula personally.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
I do also know
I
the
just
like.
finished my Count Chocula from Halloween. I just finished my box.
I do also know the generic like Vlad the Impaler kind of story.
Yes.
Kind of
Like the
thing, like
lore
historical lore
behind
behind
where the name Dracula.
Yeah,
comes
where it
from.
all
Correct. The
kind of-
Transylvania of it all.
Also, that
Transylvania of it all.
voice.
So, I learned a lot doing the research for this because I also basically knew what you guys knew. I was just really enthusiastic.
Yeah.
So, I was feeling the same thing. I was like, oh, you know, they drink blood. They come back from the dead or they're turned by other vampires. Like, I knew kind of what came from a little bit of folklore and a lot of pop culture.
Yeah.
Right. So I went deep and I was like, holy shit. Did you know? Like, yeah, the basics are exactly that. It's a revenant that feeds on life essence, but it's usually blood, not always. And they're humanoids most of the time, but not always. And I'm like, cool. And vampire lore's been around a lot longer than I thought. I thought it came from, you know, medieval, early modern Europe, and some specific instances that we're definitely going to talk about. And then but little did I know, ancient vampire lore that we're gonna. Let's go way back in time.
It's like ancient Egyptians had vampire lore.
They did
didn't
have vampiric stuff. So the one of their goddesses has some vampiric stuff, but ancienter than that, Mesopotamia has some
The
vampires.
Mesopotamians, man, every time.
Hell
The
yeah.
fucking Mesopotamians.
Sargon, Hammurabi, yeah. And there's been a lot of change in like what they look like even. So they before the 18th, 19th century European kind of shift, they used to be this bloated, scarier, corpsey looking.
Ew.
I know. Well, they looked like corpses that had been decaying, and then eventually they became this gaunt, pale, like
Bleh.
bloodsucky, scary monster looking thing. But
Pointy
before,
ears for some reason.
I know, and like the Dracula of it all. But before that, they were bloaty and gray or green or this kind of stuff.
So more of
usually
like a zombie type story.
Yeah, that seems to us because of like the nature of these incidents, right, where they're coming back from the dead and bothering their neighbors and things like this. And we're gonna notice a theme that I'll touch on a little bit later.
Ooh.
Always leave them wanting more, and that we'll see, right? So the word vampire, even. Okay.
We love a definition.
I know. It's obviously, that's not going to be what it's called in every language, right? That's
Right.
an English word kind of, but it gets popularized after an incident of our favorite thing to talk about, mass psychogenic illness.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
We're not going to call it mass hysteria. We're progressive here. So this is a mass psychogenic illness. So in the 1720s, over like several spots in Europe, there's cases of vampirism or suspected vampirism. So before we go back further in time about folklore, we're going to talk about some stuff that actually happened, quote unquote. So corpses were being buried at this time like a little bit less deep because peeps were dying, and they would get so people would be buried 6 feet deep, and then church graveyards would get full, so they would stack people up a little bit taller, and poor people couldn't afford coffins. Okay, not everybody was in a coffin. Most people were wrapped up in a shroud and then buried, and that was it. So all it took for somebody to come back from the dead, quote unquote, was like
A real good
Some real
rainstorm.
heavy
a
rain.
super good rainstorm,
A real good rainstorm.
a pack of dogs, something like that, you know,
a little bit of environmental manipulation,
or
and you got an arm.
in our favorite Shakespeare, a sloppy drunk gravedigger.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could happen. Which I thought about that. I was like, oh, maybe Hamlet. What about, is that, was that a vampire? Is that, alas, poor York. Yeah. I was like, what's happening?
It was also the case of like, you dig up graves because it's like, oh, he's just bones now. We can put somebody new in there.
That happened. So, my favorite place, New Orleans, running out of space, and then they start doing mausoleums, and so you get a set amount of time in there before like you are turned to ash, and then they like move you around so that the rest of your family has time
cook for a little bit.
and then you turn to something way smaller than the current mass that your body takes up. So
that's fascinating. I did not know that.
Yeah, you like cook in a mausoleum for a certain amount of like a year or a couple.
The heat and humidity makes you like decay super fast.
And then they take everything that was in your initial mausoleum out and cremate it all, and then you get put into a smaller little container in the mausoleum.
So that then like you have space for the
have all the space saving stuff.
Yeah, that's why they don't and they don't bury people in the ground there because like
because it's wet.
It's super wet.
Thing like on the island. That's why there's so many mausoleums, and that's why there's the like big old rocks.
Yeah, so like a coffin in a mausoleum, most of the time nobody's in it. It's just for pretties.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what this was about, except the opposite because everybody was poor. They didn't have coffins. It was a luxury that people didn't have. So they were being buried in a shroud, and then they were coming back from the dead because their bodies would be like around. And so people were like, "Oh my God, my previously dead uncle must have been he's over there now. He must have been up and walking around." Was
dead man walking?
The belief? Yeah, literally. And so at this point, the medieval belief that like bad smells cause disease was still running a little bit rampant. So, medieval. And there was an article got super popularized in England by a preacher who was notably not a doctor, but he did suggest this because his churchyard thing got really full.
Yeah,
his graveyard got full, and he wrote in this article, which I read in Smithsonian Magazine, that which we love them. Bring back the IMLS, please. And he wrote in this article in 1721. I had to make sure that he felt like the smell from these dead bodies that were like coming up and they were way too close to the top of the ground was distracting his parishioners and not keeping them in prayer. Like the dead smell was.
It smells so bad these people can't talk to God.
Yeah, and he was like, you know what?
Which is funny because you know what I say when I smell a really bad smell?
Dear God.
Dear God.
Help. So all of those context things, plus the fact that in Serbia, there were these specific cases of vampirism. A guy named Peter Blagojevich and a man named Arnold's Paul.
Do your best.
Sure. We don't know how it was pronounced. I don't.
Don't feel bad.
The rule is do your best.
Yeah, both of those
like idiots.
Both of those people reportedly, allegedly, came back from the dead and like bothered their neighbors and sucked the blood out of their neighbors. And maybe were causing disease. They caused some havoc, and there were pamphlets and there were articles and there was stuff written about this that you can go check out at on the Smithsonian Magazine.
Nice.
And all of that spread, like the superstition and the public health concerns kind of combined to make like this superstition and science come together.
Hybrid.
And the Serbian word for like back from the dead is vampirji. So this is where we kind of get the word, and this was as late as 1720, and that kind of brought about like this stage of panic that happened in the 1720s, like, and this panic like went around for like a generation. People were digging up bodies for as much as 5 or 7 years after they had been dead, and then staking them or burning them or decapitating them, like doing all kinds of things to make sure that their family members or their neighbors or
whoever were not going to come back.
We're not coming back, or like if bad things happened to their family, if they had another death, if their crops failed, if something happened, they would go and make sure that like this recently dead person wasn't causing this problem. These cases in Europe, and then even in other cultures, they would kind of do this too, and we will see this through line.
Question. So how often? let me formulate what the question is. So was it more often they were digging people back up, or were they also just preemptively like, no, you're just getting a stake in you just in case?
Getting people back.
Okay.
So people would like get the people coming, like getting dug back up. Not a ton,
Okay.
but a little bit. But if bad stuff was happening to you, right? Or if people reported that they had symptoms, like they had bites, or bad stuff was happening to them,
Yeah.
they would be like, what if it's this recently dead person? They would
What if
go
it's
and
your dead aunt?
yeah, they would just go and check. They're just going to make sure.
Yeah.
Let's just put a stake in her,
Just in case.
because then if she's a corpse, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's, you probably will talk about this. You might talk about this. I don't
Cool.
know. I've watched a bunch of like shows where they talk about vampires. One of the things where there would be like, oh, this person clearly has come back from the dead is the like nails and hair growing after death.
Yeah.
Do you have that in your notes at all?
Only one time is in like one culture, one specific thing,
Uh-huh.
are they described with like really long fingernails. And
It's just because your skin recedes.
I was just gonna say your nails actually don't continue growing after you
Your
die.
nails and your hair don't grow. It's just your skin.
your
receding.
skin
But if like
recedes.
you,
Like you
if
shrink.
if
On
you
your nail
bury-
beds, your skin recedes.
if you bury someone and then like you're like, I think they're a vampire, and like a month later you come back, they're gonna have dried up a little bit and their skin's gonna recede,
Yeah.
and you're gonna be like, oh my god, their nails got longer, they're still alive, and it's like, no,
no, but
they're
when
still
people
very
didn't know
bad.
that,
they didn't know,
and
that.
they weren't embalming
right,
at a certain period.
yeah. So they were using that as the like evidence that they were coming back to life,
Yep.
but they weren't. They were very dead.
'Cause I feel like
That's
I've
true.
seen a picture of like a gravesite from generally medieval Europe that was like a skull that had a brick in its mouth, and I was like, did they do that when that was fresh? Because that is gross.
It is gross. I didn't hear about any of that, and I did find some really weird ways to like ward off vampires in certain spots, not
Not generally everywhere.
Yeah, but and usually it was like after, because not everyone. This didn't happen to everybody. I didn't see anywhere where they were like, it was really common to do this thing. I saw that one time, and then I looked at the source, and I was like, no, not them. I was
Got
like,
it.
not reliable. It's not a reliable source, as our Queen Cardi B says. She does. I didn't see anywhere where they were like, oh, it was common to make sure. Like, no, there were a couple, and I'll talk about it. But one of these through lines is that people who did not like live a certain way, or who didn't observe correct burial traditions, or who didn't, who didn't follow a set of rules, whether in life or like if your family didn't bury you correctly, were more susceptible to becoming a vampire.
Got
Right?
it.
So like this,
social outcasts.
yeah, kind of. Or if you happened in one culture, if you happened to die by yourself and then not be found for a little bit. So that sucks, because it could be an accident. Like it could happen to you.
What if you fell off a ladder?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what if some of these, it was like it's out of your control, and I found that to be really interesting, because I was like, oh, I thought it was, you got turned or whatever, or you came back from the dead. Like I never
vampiric.
yeah, I never thought about it being so out of your control.
Yeah.
I always kind of was like, oh,
Can
I
you
thought it was
imagine-
something that can you imagine, like, yeah, you make the wrong choices here. Which back to religion. It's very much like, and here's the through line. It is less now, but it was more in ancient all the way up to like early modern times, focused on sinfulness.
Right.
And it was it happened to you in
Well,
sinfulness.
because what vampires do is very taboo. Like drinking human blood is
Yeah.
like taboo.
Yucky. Yeah.
For a number of reasons, mostly disease.
But also it's just like that gross.
But also ew.
Don't put that in your mouth.
And attacking doing violence on people.
Right.
That's
But can you imagine just like falling down the stairs and dying and no one finding you for a couple of days, and then you come back as a vampire, and
you're like, I didn't ask for this.
fuck?
Yeah. You're like, this was not my choice.
you're like, I tripped, and now I'm a vampire.
Like, what the hell? Now I have to drink blood. Yeah, like, what if you're kind of mad about it?
Yeah.
What if that's not what you wanted?
You're like,
exactly.
wait, I didn't. Immortality was not on my docket. I
No.
would like
My
to.
immediate thought was like all the motherfuckers who like they're just old motherfuckers and they like have a heart attack on the toilet.
Right.
You wake up as
They're a vampire.
They
in
don't
your
have any.
toilet.
They don't have any family who'd come check on them.
Yeah. Okay. When you go far back in time, millennia, there have been vampires around for millennia, and I didn't know this before I started doing research for this episode, like big research. And ancient Persian pottery, way back in first civilizations between Tigris and Euphrates, way back, shows creatures attempting to drink the blood of men.
Oh.
So we go way back in there. And then when you go back to Mesopotamian religion, you have specific spirits and demons that were blood drinkers.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. We get Lamashtu and Galu, who are blood drinking spirits, and then Galu is like a little demon. He follows her around. He has a little
dude.
Yeah, he's a little guy. So Lamashtu is not a humanoid. She has the head of a lion and the body of a donkey. And I was like, hello, you sound familiar. She and this, here's a through line that I didn't know. A lot of these, beginning with Lamashtu, subsist not just on blood, but the blood of mothers and babies, pregnant women, mothers and newborns. Like they'll even lie in wait and wait for a woman to like go into labor and then like eat.
It makes sense because that's like if you think of a vampire as like the end of a cycle, that's the next
little bit.
phase of the cycle is baby.
Yep.
Because they're dead, so the next thing is baby.
So it's almost always like these early ones have a lot to do with it's always women and babies. Like it's almost always it'll be like children and then sometimes adults. Like it's almost always children.
I wonder if it was a way to explain like death in childbirth and infant mortality rates.
Yeah.
Some of it is.
Oh, the women die in childbirth so often because the vampires are getting
not Galani. Galu is
the little demon.
the little demon like version of Lamashtu. Now we have Lilitu.
Oh.
And Lilitu is like synonymous and very closely associated with one of my favorite ladies, Lilith.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she gave way to Lilith in ancient Jewish tradition. Okay. And the Sumerian version of her, which is just a little bit over and a little bit maybe even earlier, was an infertile but very beautiful woman. And we all know it's a sin and bad to be infertile and not giving birth to children.
And be beautiful at the same time.
And also be very
How
beautiful.
How dare you be pretty and not let your body work the way it's supposed
Right,
to?
because that
Horrible
literally
and
means
evil.
that the whole thing about that is like, oh, you're beautiful and can't have babies, which means that people will want to use the ancient
copulate with you.
terminologies, they will want to lay with you, and
yes.
nothing will happen of that. You should be ugly if you can't have babies.
Correct. Shouldn't you be warding men off if you exactly and was believed to be, and here's a quote, a harlot and vampire who, after having chosen a lover, would never let him go.
Hell yeah.
So you're gonna trap some man and he can't have children with you.
Yep.
but he
I
can't
love that
leave
they
you.
said harlot and then
But you're-
vampire as like an afterthought.
But you're
Yeah.
but you're so good
Primarily
that he can't leave
harlot.
Yeah, he
Harlot
can't leave
first.
you. Primarily a slut.
she's harlot forward.
She was anthropomorphic, but she had bird feet.
Bird feet.
Bird-footed. She's a bird-footed night demon. So she did only come out at night, which is where we see this first thing.
Bird-footed night
So
demon.
I never ran into Harmed by the Sun.
Oh.
That's
So
so
this
odd.
is new. I think this was created in like a pop culture way because I never ran into Harmed by the Sun. I did see like they primarily come out at night. So I think that eventually changed into
that,
like
like,
Harmed
morphed
by the
into-
Sun.
This
I
is
don't know
why
that.
they come out at night is because the sun hurts them.
Yes, and
or turns to dust or whatever.
yeah. So I never found specifically the sun hurts them. Just that they come out at night primarily, maybe because people aren't so vigilant. They're sleeping. They're just like not, defending themselves.
Yeah.
I think it's more of that than like in original folklore.
I mean, in the same way
They
that,
weren't
like,
saying that.
a lot of predators are nocturnal.
Yeah.
And also like bit of a spoiler for an episode that's coming out soon.
Hee hee.
Specifically in Mesopotamian culture, they're the god of the sun, Shamash, would go into the netherworld at night. And so, like, when the sun goes away, there is no longer, like,
A protector?
he's, like, he's judgment, also.
Mm.
So, like,
Ayo.
there's no one watching at nighttime.
Oh, that's when you can be evil.
So you can do bad stuff at night because he's not
The
there.
judger is not watching
The
you.
judge isn't there anymore. He's
Alright.
he's in the netherworld
Yeah,
watching,
so like
watching
mom
all
and
the
dad
ghosts
are
and stuff.
left.
And that's precisely what it is. Because I don't know that, like, I never found harmed by the sun. I just found that
Yeah.
they are out in the
They're not
nighttime.
harmed by the sun, but he's like, hey,
Hey. She was also described as a sexual predator.
Oh.
So she was
I'm wrong.
harlot forward. And like Lamashtu, she subsisted on mothers and babies. So blood of mothers and babies.
That's great.
Not consuming, but yes, consuming the blood of mothers and babies. Now, Lilith herself, so the later version kind of this, she does appear in ancient Jewish text a little bit, but she gets really popular in like medieval folk stuff. She did originate from the religion that eventually became Judaism before they were monotheistic. Before Judaism was monotheistic and they had the one God, there were several. And at that time, when the creator God, which is the one that we all know,
Still around.
that's still around, there were several. Eventually they settled on that one, and he used to be like, he had more above him, and then he did the creating of humans. He gave Adam a first wife, and her name was Lilith.
Yep.
This is all myth. You can believe whatever you want. Lilith decided she didn't want to be subordinate to Adam in some way. Later on in like medieval folk legend, they're like, she actually was evil and she left Adam to become queen of the demons. And I was like, well, my God, because earlier, like, it was just that God took her out of Eden and was like, I'll make you a new one. And that's where we get Eve.
He's
And
like, sorry, I fucked up the first time.
and
Sorry, that first one had too much thinking. I'll give you a new one.
I'll give you a new one. And then guess what? We still blame her for original sin.
Yep.
So
Still her fault.
everything women fault.
Women-
Because
Because.
of the terrible things she does.
Yep.
And it's so here's the thing. We get the juxtaposition of Lilith, who becomes the vampiric figure, and Eve, who is the perfect wife. Lilith, the sexual, the lustful, the sinful, and
Harlot.
Eve, the Madonna whore is the whole thing. And we see this, we're going to keep seeing this through line where vampires are lustful and sinful and sexual and female.
Did you say Madonna whore?
Yeah.
The Madonna whore complex.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
Oh, it's a
The Madonna, as in
the Madonna as in Mary, the mother
right.
of Jesus, and the whore as in the whore. Anyway, whether she was banished from Eden or became queen of the demons, she then is said to prey on, guess what?
Mother's babies.
Mothers and babies.
Yep.
Blood.
Young babies and their mothers at nighttime. Excuse me. And here's the thing. Orthodox Hebrew law, and also everyone, forbids consuming blood of any kind.
Yeah.
But any. So that's what kosher meat has no blood. You can't have blood sausage. You can't do
cleansed.
rare
Very, very
rare
clean.
steaks. Like that's not something you do. But also human flesh.
You can't have rare steak.
No.
I could never be Jewish.
Anyway, because Hebrew law says you can't do those things, what she is up to is like exceptionally evil. It's not just
So
doing harm
bad.
to other people. It's that she is breaking religious law. So not just law that Gentiles are held up to, but law that Jews are held up to.
Yeah.
So people, ancient Jews and even like later, like medieval Jews would put up amulets over the cradles of their babies to ward off attacks from Lilith. And so here is your explanation for deaths of little babies for child mortality. However, famously, there were fewer maternal and infant deaths in Jewish communities because of ritual
Cleaner.
cleansing.
Yeah.
Ritual bathing, and
Same thing with the Black Plague.
they washed their hands, and that's why they got blamed for the Black Plague
Yeah.
in Europe, because they were like, you guys don't
guys aren't
get the
dying.
plague, you're not dying. And they
It's
were like,
like,
yeah,
we
we
wash
wash
our
our
hands.
hands, you weirdos. Anyway, so here's where I have to say a note on blood libel. Does anyone know what this is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Great.
Do you know what this is? Yes. Correct.
Good.
Tell
for
the folks listening.
for the listeners, blood libel is this thing that pretty early Christians made up completely about Jews eating babies, and it's horrifically anti-Semitic, and that's why I would be remiss not to mention it here, where there's a demon in ancient Judaism that consumes the blood of babies, because
Literally, they have
because they have
they
something
have this
in
big
it.
evil thing in their culture that is the evil thing that eats babies.
Yeah, so
they're not doing
obviously they're not doing it, and it was also early first century church Christians were accused of this, and that's kind of where it stems off from, because they were Jewish and converted to Christianity when they believed that Jesus was the Messiah, and then it spread off from there when they converted Gentiles too. But anyway, that is like, I wanted a small note on that, and where the protocols of the elders of Zion might fit into all of that, because the anti-Semitism of it all fits in where that is.
Can I say something really funny that I saw on the internet about vampires?
Yeah.
Can you imagine being a pre-Christ vampire, and then suddenly, and you're in a completely different fucking part of the world, and suddenly 2 sticks and a weird X hurts you? Like,
And you're like,
like the resurrection has happened, and somebody comes at you and is fucking like, let me get 2 pencils. Be gone! And you like just start burning, and you're like, what the fuck is happening?
like, has somebody help?
And then you like run away, and some other vampire has to explain to you, like, oh yeah, you know that guy who was like doing shit and turning water into wine and stuff? Turns out he actually was the son of God or whatever, and now they crucified him, and now that hurts us. Keep
While I
talking.
talk about ancient Greece.
Yeah. Hell
so
yeah.
We have a couple of words that eventually describe witches and demons respectively. That's empusa and lamia. Okay, and I'm doing my best. Like, here's my
No,
disclaimer.
you're doing great.
I'm doing my best. These are not words in languages that I speak until we eventually get to a little bit of French. Empusa, whatever. Tar.
You're doing great.
Okay. Impusa.
Was Hecate's daughter, and Hecate is the goddess of magic.
Yeah.
And she's personally a favorite of mine.
I love her.
She would seduce men while they slept.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, do you mean sexually assault? And drink their blood. She had bronze feet. So we've got bird feet and we've got bronze feet. Yeah, I don't know how that one works. Do you mean, I was like, do you mean the color? Do you mean she was real tan, or do you mean she's made of metal on the feet? How do you sneak around? Sounds loud. Clonk, clonk, clonk. Exactly. So that's her. She's a daughter of Hecate who does this. She drinks blood. Lamia, however, was a secret daughter of Zeus. Or was it lover of Zeus? She's not a daughter. She's a lover.
A lover.
She's a secret lover of Zeus. She's not his daughter. She is his lover. Sometimes it's both. Not this time.
Well,
Not this time for Zeus.
So she's his lover. And because he can't keep it in his pants and has a jealous wife, when Hera
Zeus?
when Hera discovers this,
Of course.
she gets mad at her and not him, and
Yeah, she's stupid.
kills all her children.
As she does.
Yep.
Yep.
And Lamia,
The OG jealous bitch. Hera.
I mean, with reason.
With reason.
her husband was a trifling whore.
I was like, the fact that she was never mad really at him and was always mad at the others. Like, girl, they're not the problem.
Girl, you're the goddess of marriage. Maybe you should become the goddess of divorce.
to be honest,
Drag our ass. She's gonna come get you now.
You ever
drag
look at
Zeus's
the
ass.
I don't fucking care.
Make
Get
it thunder. Where is it?
He's hiding.
So
We talked about
Hera-
Hera. He's gone.
he's like, I gotta hide. Hera killed all of Lamia's children, and she vowed vengeance.
Oh yeah, as she
course.
should.
And her vengeance, unfortunately, wasn't really on Hera. It was on everyone else, because then she preyed on children in their beds at night. And she,
Hera's-
what did she do? Drank their blood, because that's what
What we're here to
that's what
talk
people
about.
did. Yeah.
We're here to talk about people drinking blood.
Now, Also, vampires appeared in the Odyssey. There was Striga in the
Yeah.
Odyssey. Yes, we know this.
Striga.
So that's some of the ancient Greek stuff. They appeared in the Odyssey, which I haven't read. But I hear it's great.
Ever?
No, I didn't have to read it.
Alyssa.
I didn't have to read this in school.
Not even like parts.
They're
Strigas.
bird-bodied.
Mm-hmm.
And they're they're a nocturnal bird that does feed on human flesh
Oh.
and also blood. So there's a little, like a subtle difference. And then shades are what's in the Odyssey as well. Those show up. So
Yeah.
that's a slight difference. And they are pretty neat. Yeah, that's ancient Greece. We have some cool ones that show up in the rest of Europe. So we're going to move a little further up in time. We're not so ancient. Yeah, well, we're done.
moving
We're
to
done in
Europe.
Greece.
Yeah.
It's time to go where? Iceland.
Oh,
Not where I
Vikings?
thought we were
Never
going.
would have guessed.
I know, and I didn't think about Draugr.
Oh, those are zombies.
See, and you would think that that's the translation for us directly is ghost, actually,
Oh,
which is crazy because
I'm talking about my knowledge of them, which is from Skyrim, where they are zombies.
okay, so different in that for them, their undead are corporeal, so version of a ghost is
You can feel it.
an undead, but it's it has touchy, beep, it has that exactly.
Is that funny on
It
the
does
camera?
have more in common with like the Eastern European version of a vampire than it does with what we think of as a ghost,
Okay.
because it's got traditional vampire, bloodsucky, back from the dead, corporeal type of stuff. It's not what we would think of as a ghost, but to them, it's just a regular undead
Guy.
ghost thing.
Neat.
One of those categories, like it's separated into Draugr, and then it has Varmen, and that
Vermin?
Varmen, but it does sound like vermin. And this was the interesting one for me because it's very Dracula and
Oh.
it's very Dracula-ish, because it's less lustful, sinful motivated and more greed motivated. It stays really close to its burial or its home. It hoards up a treasure and guards it from thieves and trespassers. It does come out only at night. It's like that is the one that I found to be divergent from
The rest of the lore.
the traditional, like the thing that strangely
women and
enough occurs in many different cultures, despite Iceland being quite isolated. Ha ha ha.
Isolated spelled ICE.
Spelled ICE olated. Yeah. But it was that I found very compelling because anything that's like strikingly different, I was like, gotta include that one but I did find it to be very Dracula-ish. It was dragony.
Dracula-esque.
Dragony?
Dragony.
yeah.
Dragony.
Yeah,
Like
it
a
hoards up
dragon.
a
It's a
treasure.
It's hoardy.
It's
Got
it's greed motivated. It hoards up a
Yeah, yeah,
treasure.
yeah.
It never leaves that spot.
it
It,
lives in
stays
its
there.
spot.
It kills thieves and trespassers. It reminded me of a
yeah,
dragon.
that's very
I was like,
dragony.
I was gonna
fun.
say it sounds almost draconic.
Yeah, it's like that. So I found the Vataman very, very cool, and I thought it was cool that they don't have a traditional ghost. Their ghosts are corporeal. I was like,
that's pretty neat.
I was like, cool, Iceland. What a fun one. Now, Romania,
Oh.
a spot where traditional vampires like really come from.
Yeah.
This is where we get a lot of it.
Dracula.
The Strigoi, which is where we kind of get the word.
There's a supernatural episode about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
And Striga. There's also a supernatural episode about Striga.
This word is part of where we get Striga, Strega, Strix, Strigoi. These are all kind of the same
Vibe.
idea. Yeah,
Got it.
they're very related. And the
They're
Strigoi, they are cousins. Yeah, they're cousins but not sisters.
Gotcha.
Yeah. These are alive, kind of. They had like two different ways of thinking about it, because there's living kind and there's the dead kind.
Okay.
Yeah, so the living Strigoi
Uh-huh.
are witches, sort of. They have two hearts and two souls.
Oh.
Sometimes only one.
They're
Sometimes.
Time Lords?
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
yeah. So sometimes they have only 2 hearts or only 2 souls or both. And I was like,
Mix and
cool.
match.
What does that? Yeah. I was like, I don't know what that means.
How
But
do we know?
the dead ones are reanimated corpses, but they lack their soul. And I was like, there's the difference. So the living ones seem to have also died and come back to life, but they
Are alive and have their
are
souls.
alive in the way that they have a soul still.
At least one, possibly 2.
So
Probably 2.
The average living Strigoi has 1.5 souls.
Right. And they can send one soul out of their body
to go like do their bidding.
to go do the vampire stuff. That's what they're up to. Yes. So
Good noise, gang.
they meet, and they in fact meet up with other Strigoi to go do their stuff. They have a little council. The gaggle of Strigoi. That's probably what they're called. They do like consume. They hunt up livestock, because they love to you love to do harm to your neighbors.
Right.
Because when bad stuff happens, they're like, we got to blame those witches.
Got
Those
it.
are fucking neighbors. We
It
hate
was
them.
they bit people over the heart and not in the neck, but
Oh.
over the heart, or throw out a guess. This one's weird.
The butt.
Why? No.
Butt too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I
You said
both
it's
said
weird.
butt, and I was like,
You're like, is that right? It's not.
the head.
Foot.
The tummy.
Yes, it's on the head.
Oh, it's Harrison's worst nightmare.
They bite you right between the eyes.
Oh.
They get your third eye, or right here.
Being in between, it says between the eyes.
Bing
The
pot, right
source
there.
said between the eyes. So like right in here.
I said Bing Pot. It's from like Bingo and Jackpot. It's from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Bing pot.
Bing Pot.
It gets you
Okay.
right between the
Watch
like
television.
being shot right between the eyes.
But-
So like right in here. And I don't know how. I don't know how. I don't know if they take this bit of the nose.
I literally was like, "Bring me your face." I'm gonna try it.
I think they go in sideways and get right, but because also I thought about the
Oh, like
logistics.
your nose.
sleeping.
I think they get you're asleep. It's a night.
And
You're
so
sleeping.
and so they're gonna come
And they
over
go
your head like you're
beep,
gonna,
and they get your
Like-
nose right here because
Like I can give you a
okay.
little kiss, and,
And
then
here's the medical knowledge from my doctor husband. You have really big blood vessels right here in the triangle of danger. So don't ever pop a pimple right
Which is
there.
why you aren't supposed to pop pimples there, because you can get in.
You can get an infection in it because it goes straight to your brain. And some of these, that's why they bleed a lot, because there's some blood vessels that are kind of large. They're not huge, but
Right.
they're large for on your face. So that's probably why like people bleed a lot right there.
That's so
that's
weird.
why when
Yeah, and they might have been blaming that kind of thing on this. So yeah, they bite you right between the eyes.
Chip, chomp, chomp.
Anyway, graves in this area were checked up to 5 to 7 years after they were reburied, and then they were washed and reburied because they were being checked for vampirism, for signs of being a Strigoi. Now,
That's crazy.
how did you become a Strigoi?
How?
Being a revenant is actually not the only way. This is one of the times where it could be out of your control. Like bad,
Crazy.
terrible stuff could happen to you. You could be born with a caul, which means that you could be born partially still in the amniotic sac. So it could be over your head, and they would be like, "You're going to be a vampire later." And that's so that could happen.
what did they do anything in that case where baby is born and they're like, you're gonna be a vampire?
No, I think murder worse than
Then vampire.
vampire probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because baby vampire are probably only gonna like is
Fuck
gonna
your livestock.
yeah or
Maybe bite you on the face and your sleep.
and I don't know if they were like definitely. They were probably like maybe
Okay. Got it.
allegedly.
sign.
So this is
Allegedly.
yeah.
It's
This
a
is a sign. You could be born with a caul. You could have a third nipple. You could be really hairy. Yeah. You could also just be the 7th child in a family, not just the 7th. So you have to be the 7th child in a family where all the children before were one sex and then you were the other one. So if
Okay.
you had
Ginny
6
Weasley.
daughters and then
Ginny Weasley.
is that enough?
Yep.
Yeah.
She's the
She's the 7th. So she would have been a
vampire.
Strigoi.
Oh. Yep.
Same
Which
thing.
is so odd because in most cultures, like the seventh son, but
The seventh
usually,
son
like,
of the seventh son.
the seventh
Seventh of a
child-
seventh,
and
uh-huh.
even like the 7th child is usually like a lucky or like good thing because it's like, well, look how freaking fertile you are and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like that's so odd that in this specific culture, it's like, but maybe we'll be a vampire later.
See, and if they were
And
like,
this is-
I'm trying for my son. If you had 6 daughters and they really wanted a son, and then that one,
Is
like
this still Iceland?
No, this is Romania.
we are in Romania.
Okay.
They're
Bless
really bless you. They're really trying for that other one.
Stole it from you, Chris.
Hell yeah.
They're trying for the boy.
Yeah.
And then they get him, and
They
now he's
get
a
him.
vampire.
He's a vampire,
Shit.
right? You could be born out of wedlock.
Oh,
Makes you a
Bastard.
vampire. Yeah.
A
If you're
bastard.
illegitimate, then you're a vampire.
got it.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of things that are out of your control. You could be born too early. Your
Oh,
mom.
Me.
If you're, me too. Actually, so vampires all around.
We're all
Everyone in
preemies.
this room is a Strigoi.
Wee!
Potentially, could be.
Yeah, you could be. So like these are signs that you might
So it, like,
be, so that
increases your
people have to.
chances.
Yeah, so
Got
people have to watch out when you die later on.
Predisposed to being
Or
a Strigoi.
if
Someone
you
had to have kept a journal and been like, all right, this baby was born, the 7th child is a daughter, and there were 6 sons before her.
And also she was
born-
premature.
She was premature.
And out
she
of wedlock.
And out of wedlock. And in a call. She's gonna be a Strigoi.
We're like,
and she dies, and they have to keep digging her up.
and also if a child died an unnatural death before being baptized.
Oh.
So if you
What
weren't,
they deem unnatural.
it would have had to be something. So like an accident.
Okay. Like, babies dying isn't natural.
When did they baptize? What was it culturally like?
It depends on. So it
You baptized them very quickly, or did you
probably
wait?
at this time they would have been doing christenings. So we've.
So, like, couple
it depends.
weeks.
So it depends.
Like, my question is, like, does SIDS
It depends
count as
on-
a natural death?
No.
Okay.
That would have been natural
Okay.
causes. Because that's sickness.
Yeah.
But an accident.
Somebody drops a baby.
Someone dropped baby.
Like in Mothman.
Oh, also, if a pregnant woman doesn't eat any salt all the way through her pregnancy,
So she's
Strigoi?
intentionally trying to make a Strigoi at that point.
or
She's poor.
or it's medieval times and they're really
Fine.
poor
You're-
because
you're
it's
right.
because it's medieval. Or
Right, and
yeah,
salt is expensive.
salt is expensive.
Literally talked about this.
that nice?
Yeah, or you encounter a black cat during your pregnancy,
Oh my god. That's definitely
That's-
from
or
fucking
a
medieval times.
witch looks at you.
Yep.
You're pregnant and a witch looks at you. You're gonna have a vampire baby.
I'm doomed.
What if you are a witch?
You look at yourself.
You look in a mirror. You're a witch. You look in a mirror. You're like, well,
She's
fucked.
over.
Yeah.
Does it increase every time a witch looks at you?
No.
Your chances go up by a percentage.
Every time you're like looking, every time you walk past a mirror, you're like, shit.
Just stop looking
And you're
at
like,
me.
God damn it, Martha, we can't keep running into each other.
Wear sunglasses.
You put on like sunglasses like you're running into Medusa all the time
Yeah.
in Percy Jackson or whatever. Jesus. I think that's all of the ones that I found that were like, oh, here's little risks. And that was one of the ones that struck me that was like, well, it's not your fault. Like, you're a baby. You didn't make this choice.
Right.
Or you were even like a fetus and your mom did all of this.
Yeah, you weren't even a baby yet.
So we're gonna go a little further east. We're gonna keep going on this journey further east into like the Slavic countries and Turkic Europe,
Okay.
into Russia.
Got it.
So keep moving east.
Yep.
In southern Russia, people who talked to themselves a lot were at risk of becoming vampires. So
We're fucked.
yeah, all of it. If you had ADHD, it's over for you. It's Jover for you. Two of the earliest historical recordings, so I was really excited to talk about this, are in this area. And they're in they were written by down by a guy named Neplach. He wrote Neplach's Chronicle right around 1360, like circa 1360.
Cool.
He probably wrote it right around then. So he
Hey,
mentions
Laurel.
a shepherd named Mislata from a place called Blov.
Harlot.
That was in 1336 in a place called Blov. Every evening,
Blov.
he walked around, like, after dying, he was buried, did not stay in the grave, like regular. And every evening, he walked around and spoke to people as if he was alive, and this scared them.
Yeah.
Like it would to me. If my friend died and then walked around and got to me, I would be like,
You're dead.
You're dead.
You're
What,
dead. Go
what are you
away.
doing here? Please leave, Miss Lotta.
Miss Lotta.
Miss
Soon,
Lotta.
Get gone.
he started, he
Miss Lotta,
escalated
Go home.
to murder. Because he would stop by someone's home and call their name, and then if they didn't answer, that person would die in 8 days.
Oh.
Answer your fucking doors, apparently.
Apparently, I know, and I'm not answering my door at night. I'm
Are you
asleep.
out of your mind?
So
Knock,
people,
knock, knock. It's me, Miss Lotta, your friend. If you don't come door, I kill you in 8 days.
exactly. But I don't know. Who knows if he announced it? Who knows if he told them his intentions? But they noticed a pattern. If someone reported that Miss Lotta had come to their door and called their name, 8 days later they were dead. So the people of several villages who had encountered Miss Lotta decided
Several
to
villages. He's walking a long way.
apparently because they did
Thanks, Miss Lotta.
decide to exhume him and burn his body.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they got him, and then so not only
They got him.
they got him, so they exhumed him, and then like during the process he screamed.
Oh, hell no.
They said so during this process he let out a really loud scream. Someone did stab him with a stake, and a bunch of blood came out, and I was like, yeah, brother, there's blood inside of him.
Blood inside of him.
So he was probably really decomposed and gross.
Blech.
After
Can
he
you
was
imagine the
burned,
screaming just being like pressure
Air.
releasing. From
I
his
thought
body?
I know I was
I
like,
was like, it could be like a death rattle type. Like it's a burp.
because all he said was like the translation just said during the process he screamed, and I was like, when you dug it up or like when you stabbed him,
Or
because
when you burned him.
oh yeah
Like, when you
because
burn it and the water
And
in
the
the body
steam.
that's left
Is
is
steam.
escaping is steam.
And it's- yeah and all of the evil events stopped.
Well.
Evidently.
Well,
Miss Lotta, sounds like you were a bit of a dick.
He had another case in Netblock's Chronicle that happened 8 years later in 1344.
Okay.
He wrote about this time a woman from Levin who, after being buried, came back from the dead. Classically, she did kill several people and then dance on them.
Oh.
Good for her.
And I don't know how, but she
I
danced.
dance on your soul.
Exactly. And I was like,
You.
taking a new like she didn't only dance on their grave, she danced on their body.
Their corpse.
Yep.
That doesn't sound comfortable.
Squish 'em.
Once she was exhumated and a stake was put through her, so
Stop.
very classic stuff. Her blood poured out of her as if she were alive, and I was like,
Ew.
was it as if she were alive,
or was it just that there was blood in her body?
yeah, because it didn't go anywhere. She died,
take it
and
out?
the blood
Did you
was
take
in
the
there.
blood out? If you didn't take the blood out, this isn't interesting to me.
So here's the next bit really got to me because it says she also ate her clothes. And once removed from her mouth, the cloth was bloody too. And I was like, do you mean post-death or while alive?
So she ate her clothes as a vampire, and then in her grave, they pulled cloth out of her mouth.
And it was
covered in
bloody.
blood.
Yeah, that's what I was like, do you mean when she was being exhumated, she ate her clothes? Which is what it makes it sound like.
Right.
Gets naked for exhumation.
They exhumed
Yeah,
her.
they exhume
They
her.
exhume her, and as they're digging her out, she's like,
Yeah, I was
Gnawing
like,
on her shirt.
huh? So I don't know what the order of events was. I don't know when she ate
feel
her
like
clothes.
the order of operations is probably when she was wandering around dancing on dead people. She also was like, "What if I took a little snack out of my shirt?" What if
Yeah.
started.
She ate her clothes. So even after that, she was attacking villagers, so they decided to burn her. So I guess she ate her clothes. They staked her. She ate her clothes. She kept attacking people. Then they burned her.
Wow.
Is the order of operations.
That's
So
a lot of
the
operations.
stake actually didn't take care of her. They had to burn her.
Didn't fix it.
Yep. This woman was really strong.
dead? Really strong.
She was really strong
She ate her
because
fucking clothes.
well, she ate her. So they staked her, and then she ate her clothes and kept attacking people because the staking didn't work. They
Oh, damn.
tried to burn her, but the fire wouldn't catch until they
Pulled the
took
stake
some.
out?
So not even that. I think
Why not
Douse her
just
in
light
gasoline?
the
what they did. Well, I don't think that was around.
No, it wasn't. I was joking.
You know what they did? They had to take pieces off of the church roof.
Oh.
They had to give her godwood,
Mm.
and that's
it.
what made it work. And then both of these
best
cases
ingredient.
get mentioned in another book in 1704, so like another 250 years later.
Yeah.
These
So
are
another guy's
mentioned.
doing vampire research, and he goes, "What the fuck? 1300s, crazy."
And that one was intended to like dispel belief in vampires, actually. So he
Weird.
mentions it. His name's Carl Ferdinand Schurz, if you're looking for that book
Schurz?
ever. Yeah, weirdly enough.
After this woman eats her clothes.
Then he was like,
Schurz.
by the way. supposed to denounce kind of widespread folk belief in vampires.
Clearly did not work.
It didn't. Because here we are today.
Here we are talking about vampires right now.
Yeah. So you move a little further south to the South Slavic stuff, like Serbia type of place. The first bit of becoming a vampire becomes really crucial because they don't just stay their body. They die, and then they have to feed on the lifeblood of people, either blood or like the essence of people. Sure. So maybe an energy vampire, a Colin Robinson type.
Colin Robinson. If you haven't watched What We Do in the Shadows,
then
you
get
should.
on it. To
it's
be honest,
very funny.
And what happens to them is they like disappear a little bit. I guess they become this clear jelly is what they're described it. Like they become a jelly. Sort of. I think maybe not that I've seen one. They become a clear jelly.
Have you ever seen a Serbian vampire?
No.
Weird.
I would love to.
Have you seen a Serbian vampire?
DM me, Serbian vampires.
Serbian vampires, if you're out there, send us an
email.
And so they take that 40 days to turn that clear jelly into basically the body they had before.
Is it like the caterpillar? Is it like this is like their chrysalis?
They're chrysalis.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, so they get melted down to
They've
goo and
oozed
then they
their
become
body
anything.
and then reformed it.
But it's the body they had before. So I don't know why
That's
But
like
is
an
it-
extra
this step.
But,
Well,
okay.
and I'm like,
They have to make it
hey,
permanent so it
why
doesn't
did we
rot.
need
Why do we need this?
why did we need this middle stage folklore people who wrote
This
this?
weird.
At this point,
Well,
At this point.
those vampires can permanently leave their grave. They don't have to go back.
Oh, these jelly guys.
Jelly guys.
That's why they need the jelly stage.
No,
They need the jelly stage.
Post jelly stage.
Post jelly.
It's post jelly. They have their body. They can permanently
Right,
leave
I'm
their
just calling
grave
this
now.
Kind of vampire, the jelly guys.
Yeah, they are, and they are. They yeah. They
gelatinous.
they
They
die.
have a jelly stage.
They become jelly after they drink some lifeblood. They
Okay.
feed off of essence, and then they take 40 days.
They reconstitute.
Yes, and then they can permanently leave their grave and go bother people.
Right.
However,
Which is kind of the first time we get that.
a little bit,
yeah, like they're now independent.
because we're about to run into this kind of thing some more, where you can permanently like live,
Be a vampire.
Leave your home.
leave your like not only be out at night. They do have I don't know if it's their personal choice, but these jelly guys, once they reconstitute, could either be vampires or vampire hunters.
Oh.
Yeah, they could,
Built in population control.
because they can see vampires. Because
need to-
there's actually another option for if you want to, in this area of the world, be able to see vampires and hunt them. You could just be born on a Saturday.
Oh.
Neat.
Hey, if you're
Stupid
born on a
smartism.
Saturday, let us know. You're
Let
a
us
vampire
know you're a
hunter.
vampire.
You're a vampire hunter if you're in.
Let us interview you. What
do your
vampires
due
look like?
Slavic.
diligence.
Speaking of calls to action,
Yeah.
it's time for weird Slavic ways to repel vampires.
Oh yeah.
I have two, and one of them is super long, so it's a very complicated ritual from this area and this time. So you need here's some supplies you need. You
Okay.
need twin brothers.
Oh, sick.
You need twin oxen. You need an egg. You need a nail. You need, let's see, 2 or 3 elderly women. You need
2 or 3.
It says 2 or 3.
So specific.
You need 5 hawthorn pegs or old knives. There you go. So gather all that supplies, and then here's what you do. You take the twin brothers, and they yoke those twin oxes and drive a furlough, all the way around your whole village.
Uh-huh.
And then you break an egg and drive a nail into the floor underneath the house of a recently deceased person.
Okay.
And then those 2 or 3 elderly women stay at the cemetery all night, and they watch to make sure of no like
Rising.
rising from the dead.
No funny business.
And then the grave that you think
Is
is a vampire, you drive 5 hawthorn pegs into, or old knives. You put one in the chest, and then the other one's at
On the
like
4
hands and
corners.
feet.
Oh, okay.
Do you
Hands and
dig
feet.
them up, or do you just put those in the grave?
It says in the grave, but one of them says at the position of the deceased's chest. So I think it's in the dirt.
Okay. And it's like
So
this
that
is
they're
where
like
their chest
well, I can't get up or I'll be staked. I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll get stabbed.
And the other 4 at the positions of the hands and chest. So you have to do all those things. That's one way.
Got it.
That's one option.
So that's
One option.
those twin brothers with those twin oxen have
Making
a
bank.
great business.
Yeah. They're like, by the way, anytime.
100% they made it up.
Anyway.
What's the other one?
One more.
Yep.
You could run backwards uphill with a lit candle and a turtle.
And a turtle?
And one in each hand.
Yep, I think so. You could
Lit
run backwards
candle,
uphill
Turtle.
Don't die.
with a lit candle and a turtle.
Is there a reason? No.
It's folklore.
Cool.
It's folklore.
Often
you could,
there isn't.
You could do that, and it repels vampires. You could run backwards uphill with a lit candle and a turtle.
That's way
That
easier.
one was my favorite.
That's way
Um,
easier than getting the twin boys.
Yeah.
I thought this one was way easier too. I was like, all you need is a lit candle and a turtle and a hill.
You gotta find a turtle though.
I feel like that's easier
Again.
than twin oxen
I
and
bet
twin
you one of
boys.
those twin boys has a turtle.
Probably, and they're
Yeah.
like,
Rents it out.
alternately, you could surround the grave that you think someone is vampiring in
Yep.
with red wool
Oh.
thread.
Oh.
Okay.
Specific.
That's the easiest.
And then you have to burn it and wait for it all to burn up. And I was like, oh, this is traditional witchcraft, that stuff. This is
Yeah.
folk
Right, this is-
witchcraft.
this is
I was
full
like,
folk
this I recognize.
Yeah. This is
I was like,
folk
this
magic.
I understand. And then you got to wait for it to burn up.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, this one makes total sense. The other ones, what is happening?
Are you doing?
Sticking a knife in dirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
But
get that one.
our last European bit is Romani people. So travelers.
Hell yeah.
Who are kind of mostly in this area at this point. But yeah, travelers, Romanis, Roma. Female vampires, in their belief, could lead like normal lives.
Oh.
Okay.
Nice.
Um,
Good for them.
Yeah, they would have their revenant and they would lead a normal life, even get married
Oh.
and stuff, but they would eventually exhaust their husband with their insatiable sexual appetite. Yeah, so this is another like that
Harlot
through
forward.
line. Yeah, this through line of vampirism in this time period, like before the 18th, 19th century, being very female, very lustful, very sinful.
Well, it's like it's like, oh, they have bloodlust.
yeah, but
It's
they
just
also have
lust.
sex lust.
Just
Yeah,
lust,
but they
lust.
also have blood and lust.
They have just regular
And bloodlust.
lust.
So not only could women and their insatiable sexual appetites become vampires, you know what else could?
Man.
Baby.
Dogs,
Oh.
Dogs.
cats,
Oh.
plants,
Plants.
agricultural tools.
What?
Oh my god, a
Vampires?
vampiric plow.
Yeah, vampiric shovel, vampiric hoe. The woman and the tool.
Vampiric rake.
Vampire Shovel is the name of my band.
Those things could become vampires. This is where we see the people who died alone and unseen for a little bit. This is a Romani tradition. If you die alone and no one finds you for a bit, you're gonna come back. Because so this one too, if you didn't properly destroy people's belongings, if you kept things that belonged to other people, they would become a vampire and they would kind of exact their vengeance on you
Because you took their shit.
because you took their things because you didn't follow proper burial traditions.
Of giving them their grave goods.
Yes. So they would come back and like bother you, or drink blood off of you and stuff.
Gross.
Take your blood.
Now here's a good one. Roma people in Kosovo specifically
Okay.
believed vampires were invisible to most people,
Okay.
unless, of course,
You're born on Saturday.
you were born on a Saturday and you were a twin brother and sister who wore their clothes inside out.
Both.
All of that above?
You had to be all of them.
Well,
a twin,
then
a set of brother sister twins who were born on a Saturday, and if you put your clothes on inside out, then you could see vampires.
Alex and I are safe by a day.
Oh my god, I forgot to say something about vampires that I know at the beginning.
Go ahead.
No reflection.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you know what I never ran into once?
That?
Where?
No reflection.
Fucking
Never.
wild.
Oh, I did run into garlic.
Yeah.
Garlic a fair amount of times. Like that was used as a defense. Do I know why? No.
Yeah.
But I suspect.
Stinky?
I suspect that it's not the stink. I suspect that it's because it is used as an antiseptic in herbal medicine.
Yeah.
I believe that it's that. We're going to Africa. So, there's vampires all over the world, not just in Europe. Of course, they're in Africa too. A couple of my favorites, some of the heavy hitters. The Asanboam from the Ashanti people, which that's in southern Ghana, in Togo, in Cote d'Ivoire. These are terrifying because they have... I'm about to say some features that apply to me. Long red hair and pink skin.
That doesn't apply to you. Oh, they're white people.
I thought the same thing. I was like, excuse me.
Is this
But
just-
also, iron teeth and iron feet.
Iron teeth and iron feet.
oh,
to go with the
like our
bronze
bronze
feet?
feet.
Like the bronze feet lady.
Clomp, 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 clomp.
But iron teeth and iron feet and bat-like wings that can be up to 20
I don't
feet
like
wide.
bats.
This is the first time I came into contact with the turning into bat thing. Because, yeah, we hadn't seen that yet.
Bats yet.
No bats. I know. I was like, a shocking amount of these things didn't come from folklore. They were like invented by
Pop culture.
later stuff. Yeah.
That's crazy. Which is
so-
folklore, it's just different folklore.
Up to 20 feet wide. These live in the trees.
Oh,
They live in the trees
Hate
because
that
there's
more.
some forest up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this did travel with African diaspora from enslavement, and it ended up in the Caribbean and stuff specifically. And yeah, this dude lives in the trees, and it feeds on people who wander into its domain.
Don't like it.
So this is one of those ones that's used by parents
Don't go in the forest.
to be like, hey,
Don't go out at night. Don't go out
avoid
in
the forest.
Don't go in the trees.
The Asanboam will get you. The Adze of the U people, it's spelled EWE. So this one doesn't turn into a bat, but it does turn into a firefly.
I love it.
I know, I do too. I was kind of like, oh, that's so cute. However, it's not. It does turn into a firefly in the wild. If you capture it, it turns into a human.
Oh.
Goes back to human form. And it's in a human form when it feeds. So it's a
Stealthy
firefly
ass. I was like,
so that it can get, it's kind of succubus-y too.
Ooh.
It gets,
Sexy bug.
it uses the bug for transportation.
Okay.
That's
So-
what's around.
Yeah, the bug is for so it can get through like cracks and keyholes and
Sure.
stuff to get into your
So it can be a
house.
little pervert.
And then it gets to you and is like and bites you, feeds off your blood.
Ew.
So and then effects of the and when it's a human, it can possess other humans.
Oh.
Yeah, I found this one to be really cool and different and not just like drinks your blood, comes back from the dead. The effects of it when another person is possessed are felt by the people around them. So usually if something negative happens to the people around you, they're like, you're possessed by an Adze.
At least they're not
like-
like you're a vampire.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, this thing is around you and it's getting you. Yeah, so specifically if like if you have children, it said specifically women who have kids and they have a brother who has kids and their brother's kids are doing better than their kids, then they're possessed by the Adze. And I'm like, damn,
That's so
what?
specific.
It was. Or like, you know, if you are if you're poor and you're jealous of the rich, then you might get possessed by an Adze. Like if you're jealous of someone, then you may be possessed by the Adze.
I see.
That's who it's generally the effects are generally felt by the victim's family or by people who they are jealous of. However, modern experts think that this the Adze in particular was a way to explain the effects on this community, which was in the same area, very close to the Ashanti, the effects of mosquitoes and malaria.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, and because there would be disease and livestock would die, and
don't fuck with bugs.
yeah, and it was and they explained it as a bug. So this was probably that.
Bugs be dangerous.
And they never gave a defense against the Adze. There was no way to repel it. There was no way to defend yourself. There was no way to get rid of one. So yeah, modern experts think that this was a legend created to explain malaria away and to explain the effects of mosquitoes.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool as a person who's allergic to mosquito bites. Another spot, the Impundulu.
Ooh.
Yeah, the direct translation is lightning bird. So this reminds me a lot of the American thunderbird.
Yeah.
Because it does take the form of a bird, a specific bird, which I meant to include the name of the bird and I forgot.
That's okay.
Dang it. It's a black and white bird, but it's the size of a person.
It's a big fucking bird.
Big bird. And the actual bird is not that big.
Okay.
The bird that it's like supposed to look like is not that large, but this is the mythical version of that bird. And it summons thunder and lightning. like the thunderbird do, with wings and talons. So it uses the wings to make the thunder sound. Como the thunderbird.
Yeah.
But it is a vampiric creature and associated with witchcraft that humans do. So it's not a familiar, but it's kind of close to that. It's usually the servant of a witch or a witch doctor in these communities. I know, and I love that. It does, however, attack the witch's enemies. So it's like, so more of a servant to me than a familiar
dog.
because, it's an attack bird. It is said, however, to have an insatiable appetite for blood. Sometimes it will take the form of not a young woman, but a beautiful young man who seduces women. So we have a little
The opposite.
subversive thing here. Come with me to cross the ocean
Yeah.
Okay.
to the Americas.
Are we swimming? Are we taking a plane? How are we getting there?
We're
the
flying on that
Batwings.
bird.
Oh, we're flying on the bird.
Let's fly on that bird.
We'll ride on his back.
Because there's two that I loved
Away we
from the Americas. Firstly, in Trinidad, and then it moved right on up to Louisiana, where my people are. We have the succulent. Does an appearance as like a really reclusive old woman, sometimes a man, usually a woman, in the daytime. But by night, they strip off that wrinkly old skin.
Ew.
It gets worse. They put it in a mortar.
Oh.
And leave it there and then walk around like
Skinless.
well they actually take the form of a little fireball.
Oh.
I know, it's really I don't know, they take that skin off and
they're a fireball.
they into a fireball and then fly across the dark sky searching for their victims to consume. If you want to expose one of these succulents, here's what we do. You throw rice all over your house.
Is this where the counting comes in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All over your house or at the crossroads of your village, because then it'll be obligated to stop there and count all the rice, and you'll trap it because it'll be stopped in one spot for a long time, and then you can catch it.
Yeah, you can
in
catch
the
it, you
act
can kill
because
it,
it
you can do
stops
whatever.
there and it has to
You're
count
like
all
a
the
normal
to.
person wouldn't
And
count all that rice.
I never saw the counting thing until right now. I was like, why does
That's
it need to
wild.
stop and count stuff? Because the only other time I've seen the counting thing is in Sesame Street.
That's absolutely wild to me because like that is a thing that like I highly associate with vampires.
Never saw it until the succulent.
That's so weird.
If you want to destroy it, then you get your salt and you sprinkle it in the mortar with their skin, and then the skin will dry up. She won't be able to put it back on.
You make your jacket shrink.
Yeah, literally.
Your skin jacket. Yep.
Her skin
You
suit
turn
will.
it into jerky. And then she can't put it back
You hang it out in the sun. Yeah,
Tan
you
hide.
put salt in it, and literally it dries up, and she can't put it back on. And then she's
a
like,
slug.
"Well,
I guess I'm a fireball now.
yep." And then I guess she can't be a fireball in the daytime.
Maybe.
But if you can't put your skin back on,
You're dead.
you're dead. That's what it says. She's unable to put it back
I
on.
mean, it does say like she waits until the nighttime to take her skin off, so it would make sense that it's like a no daytime. You gotta have your skin.
Daytime, you got to be an old lady,
Yeah.
a reclusive old lady, and she can't be the reclusive old lady. So
Can't put her skin back on. Damn.
Crazy.
I know she was a sequoiant. The Rougarou is a wonderful example of like several different beliefs coming together to make a vampiric
Situation.
creature. So the voodoo or the vodou or
Vodun.
whatever, which are different but similar things, combined with the Catholicism that came in to make this Cajun belief, starts with the loup-garou,
Yeah.
the werewolf, in the French Acadian part here in Louisiana. And I myself am half Cajun, so I
Acadia
love
again.
this.
Yep, Acadia again.
There we are. This was the Rougarou is something that was used, and it still is, as a like danger deterrent for children.
Yeah.
Where parents would be like, "Hey, don't go out at night. The Rougarou will get you."
Literally, our friend Felicia.
Yes,
Like she's Cajun.
Cajun.
What when I wore my Rougarou shirt to work for the first time. She was like, the Rougarou, and I was like,
Yeah.
you never sound like that. What the fuck is happening?
I know. She doesn't have
She doesn't have,
an accent,
She doesn't sound like she's from here, but she doesn't have like a super thick Cajun accent.
and neither do
Except
my
for
Cajun
it came
relatives.
out
But
when she said
Yeah,
Rougarou.
she was like, she saw my shirt and was like transported back
Yeah.
to the swamp.
to her native
She
lands,
was like, the Rougarou.
her
And I
blood
was
like turned to swamp water.
yeah, I was like, yeah, and she was like, oh my god, no, that's my people, that's my shit, and I was like, Felicia, what the fuck is going on?
help.
Hello?
And that's why I wanted to talk about him, because he's a whole bunch of different beliefs that come together. Because he's technically a werewolf. Like that's
He's a werewolf.
that's
He's
what
a
his
dog
name.
man.
That's what his name is, and he transforms into the werewolf. Isn't that the way it
Yeah.
works? Yeah, he
He's a
transforms.
man.
He's a literal werewolf.
And then a wolf.
Yeah. However, he sucks blood.
Neat.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, what a combo. And that's why he's used as a scary little tactic. The Rougarou, though, represents one of the most recent documented cases of like vampire activity in the United States.
Huh.
In
Explain yourself.
Say more.
Exeter, Rhode Island.
That's not where he lives.
No.
a
A
long way.
werewolf vampire hybrid thing
Mm.
was documented by like the case of a woman named Mercy Brown in
Okay.
Exeter, Rhode Island in 1892.
You say 1892.
1892, which is way...
That's far too recent for us to be
It is, but
saying that for sure there's a wolf man.
it's in the same...
And
but
in
it's
Rhode Island.
right at the end of these vampire panics that... wherein people's... like, so her corpse was reported to come back from the dead and bother her neighbors and do these kind of classic things, and then they exhumed her and burned her and all these kinds of things, and then all of this
And then it
activity
stopped.
stopped. And it's one of the latest documented cases of vampirism and vampire panic, and it's in the United States, which is really, really unique. This didn't happen at all, and there was allegedly some werewolf activity in the same
That's crazy.
stuff, in the same vein. So the Rougarou is really unique in that aspect because of the werewolf,
I
because of the
don't think I
transformation
ever-
that happens every time.
Right. I don't think I ever made the connection that it was like a blood drinker.
Yep.
I think my brain was like, no, it's a specific werewolf, but it's a werewolf.
He
crazy.
a werewolf and a vampire. He do both.
Wow.
Let's cross the ocean one last time.
Okay.
Which one?
The Pacific.
Ooh.
We're going over once more to Asia, to the non-Russia part of Asia.
Yeah.
And we're going to stop over before we go all the way over to the Philippines. To Philippines, because they have a really cool, scary one. I know the Philippines have some scary shit.
They do.
Including the Manananggal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know of this.
The Manananggal is so yikes that I have to change my position. The Manananggal is an older but very beautiful woman. And thank God, because I was tired of hearing of either very young, very beautiful women or old crones who were haggish and ugly.
Whenever
You can
like,
be one
hear
or
of
the
this,
other.
Yeah.
I think
Never
of, like,
both.
I think of like Mother Gothel from Tangled.
Yes.
Like an
old
older
but
woman,
beautiful.
But she's like she's
gorgeous.
drawn very beautifully in that. Like she's supposed to be this alluring older woman.
So she's a beautiful, like, older
Lady.
Yes.
lady. And here's the really spooky, scary bit.
Yeah.
Can, like, to get around, severs her torso from her legs.
Yep.
Yep. To fly.
Yeah.
And has big bat-like wings. Some of the drawings that I saw of this were actually just a head with wings on it.
Oh.
So I don't know if it's severing from the torso, like at the rib, at the hip. Is so scary because it will like lie in wait to drink the blood of pregnant women, or it sucks up blood from sleeping victims. So it'll and then go back for its legs later.
Yeah.
Damn.
hate it.
It just like leaves its legs
I hated that.
in there.
Yeah.
Its legs, notably the mode of transportation for most things.
Most things, but they're too heavy.
Yeah, but
to
it has
fly.
big bat wings.
Yeah, it can't fly those.
It can't. Yeah, it can fly the legs. It can
Which is
fly the rest of the
insane
body,
because,
though.
like, why? You got these big bat wings. So they're either right on its neck, like it'll separate its head and fly with just the head, or it's the torso. And I saw both depictions.
Yeah, I was like,
So,
whenever I
sources
was
vary.
told the story. It was like under the ribs.
Yeah.
Okay. Sources vary.
Yeah.
Your miles may vary.
The Chinese vampire, which I also found really interesting, is the Jiangxi.
Mm-hmm.
And
I watched a movie about it. It was one of the scariest things.
so
I've
they
ever seen.
had a really big vampire movie boom in China in the 80s about these Jiangxi. And I found that really cool when I did some when I was doing research about this. They had a huge movie boom in the 80s and 90s. They are scary. So here's the thing: they're the vampires are corpses that are reanimated, but it's done by magic reasons. So it happens to you, but it's done by other people.
Yeah.
So not consensually.
Yeah, again, not your choice.
Yeah.
And it's usually your family's choice. So often,
That's weird.
in ancient all the way up to like medieval China, you were buried where you were from. So if you died away from home and your family couldn't afford like a cart to bring you home, what they would do is hire a sorcerer who would do a spell,
He would necromance you.
put a piece of paper on your head, and make you alive as a
Bring you back home.
Jiangxi and bring you back home. And then if your family couldn't pay, or if he was mad at you, he would tear that paper off and keep you alive. And then you were a vampire.
Crazy.
And that's how, yeah, I was like, excuse I? What the fuck?
Excusez-moi.
So you were brought back home by a sorcerer that was hired by your family. And then, yeah, if he got angry,
He just left you like that.
he just left you like that. Which I was like, but you didn't do anything to him. Like,
Yeah, but he's
kind
like,
of mean.
someone has to be punished.
Yeah, and so if your family then like couldn't pay or whatever, you became a vampire. Now, the paper, yeah, like it was the paper that did it. So the Chinese vampire has some unusual features. Here's where we get the fingernails. The long curved fingernails, this is the first time they were mentioned, and it's because of that receding skin, but they had long curved fingernails, furry greenish white skin.
Ew, they're moldy.
They're moldy, exactly. So that's where I was getting. I was like, yeah, that's because it's a corpse and they're moldy and they've been out of the ground, decomposing rapidly under the sun and the heat. Yeah, it's fungus and stuff. So that's how they're described. They're not. So this is where they're, in the way before we get to 18th, 19th century Europe, when books are written about this, when other, like when pop culture comes in, this is where they are still, they're bloated, they're gray, they're scary looking, and then they look like corpses. So what do we think?
Hell yeah.
I think vampires. I learned a lot. I knew some of the stuff about some of those, but I didn't know the majority of that.
Yeah, I don't think I
That was very interesting.
Cool.
definitely did not know a ton of the ancient vampire knowledge.
Yeah.
I think so much of what we know is more pop culture, more modern, and so it's really interesting to get to see, getting to learn kind of the more ancient, the through line, and like how long this kind of lore has actually existed in the world.
Yeah, I was just fascinated to learn like which parts of our pop culture vampire lore came from other things.
Oh, do you believe?
I want vampires to be real because I think it'd be sick.
I don't. They
Yeah.
scare
Do we
me.
believe?
I
Because I'll tell you what I think too.
I unfortunately don't believe.
I think that the lore of vampires comes from the inherent human fear of corpses.
Yeah.
And dead people and dead things, and like the fear of being buried alive, the fear of what happens after death, like that kind of thing, and that coupled with overcrowding of cemeteries and bodies kind of moving around because of natural things leads to a situation rife for this lore to come
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And the fear of like, my blood stay inside my body, don't leave my body, my blood.
Yeah, blood, please stay inside.
Like that. That's kind of where I feel like it comes from. I'm not gonna say that I don't think there are not any people who do like try to sustain themselves on blood. I think that it's a thing. There is also an illness that
Yeah.
causes people to do that.
Oh
But
yeah.
I don't remember what it's fucking called.
You're correct. I don't remember what it's called either.
But like it's a thing. There are actual vampires, but they aren't dead people. They're
Yep.
live people who just crave blood.
I was going to touch on that same thing
Noise.
when I was like, well, I don't. Yeah, they're not. They're not
these
real.
creatures of
The-
lore.
yeah,
Right.
this is lore. This is myth, and it's really cool. But this is not something that I believe in. This
Yeah.
is not one of the ones where I'm like, no, this is around. This is whatever. Because I have those, but
But I
that's
do love
this
them.
is not one. I love them too, and however, I like not having to fear this.
Yeah.
This is nice.
Right.
But I have I'm only like 2 degrees of separation from some people who do this. And
Do what?
We do.
who do vampirism.
Oh.
Who sleep in coffin, who are only awake during the night, who drink blood consensually from other people. Yeah. Who are in that vampire colony in Austin.
I also don't know that this truly is something that exists. I think people want it to exist so badly and like do it from a pop culture perspective,
Right.
but
But want to
not,
be edgelords,
but
which I
not,
support.
but not from a,
Support your local edgelord.
not from a like
Some of them.
Some of them.
folkloric perspective. Because I also like this reanimation, everything you talked about. Also, a lot of pop culture vampires talks about immortality and things like that, and that's not what is happening. That's not what the lore shows.
Yeah.
Like that's very much an added Hollywood movie monster effect of maybe you age differently for other reasons if that's the case, but not necessarily drinking human blood.
Yee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you did a great job.
Thanks.
Thanks for covering vampires.
Thanks for coming to talk to us.
I love vampires.
Is this all we need to know about vampires?
I think so.
I think that's everything that we need to know about vampires for now. Tune in next week for something else because vampires part 2 of this will be in
In a
4
month.
weeks.
Yeah, in like a month.
Wow. Cool.
Thanks for listening.
This podcast is for weirdos.
Are you a weirdo?
Thursdays are for the phenomena.